Still confused about when to use imparfait or passé composé? Almost every French learner struggles with this. But what if I told you there is a simple way to master both once and for all? In less than 20 minutes, you will finally understand when to use each one without hesitating. Enjoy your coffee and let's break this down together. Ready? Let's go. We often hear French learners say, "I know the rules, but when I speak, I freeze." Maybe this sounds familiar. You guess, hesitate, or even skip the past tense altogether. But here is the thing. The real problem is not your French grammar. It's just that no one ever explained these two past tenses clearly and simply. So today we are changing that. I am going to share with you an easy mental image to make it stick, real-life examples you will actually use, and a mindset shift to make it feel natural when you speak. Let's walk through it together, step by step. So by the end, you will be confident using both tenses in real conversations. Here is an easy way to think about it. The passé composé is like a movie. It shows clear actions to move the story forward, one scene after another. Imparfait, on the other hand, is like a painting. It gives you the background details, the mood, the atmosphere. In a story, the passé composé tells you what happened, while the imparfait describes what was going on behind the scenes. Let's take these two examples. J'ai couru, that's a complete action. Je courais, that's the ongoing scene. Keep that image in mind, the movie versus the painting. It will really help you. Alright, let's take a closer look at the first one, the passé composé. We use it for actions that happened and are now finished. For example, hier, j'ai mangé une pizza. It's done. One clear moment, one result. We also use it to tell a story step by step. Il est entré, il a parlé, il est parti. Each action is quick, completed, one after another. Here is another common use. When one action interrupts another action, the interruption is in passé composé. Je dormais quand le téléphone a sonné. The ringing interrupts the sleep, so it's passé composé. If you can ask yourself what happened, it's probably passé composé. Now that you know when to use it, let's break down how to build it. Forming passé composé, it's quite easy. Subject plus auxiliary plus past participle. First, pick the auxiliary verb that goes with your verb, either avoir or être. We usually use avoir, but some verbs of movement or change use être, like aller, venir, arriver, partir. 2. Conjugate your auxiliary verb in the present tense. For avoir, j'ai, tu as, il, elle, a. Nous avons, vous avez, ils, elles ont. For être, je suis, tu es, il, elle, est. Nous sommes, vous êtes, ils, elles sont. And then add the past participle of your main verb. For ER verbs, replace ER with et. Parler, parler. For ER verbs, replace IR with I. Finir, fini. For RE verbs, replace RE with U. Vendre, vendu. Let's try one. How would you say I ate in passé composé? Verb manger plus auxiliary verb avoir, but in the present tense, j'ai. Plus past participle, j'ai mangé. Now, one important detail. If you are using être, the past participle must agree with the subject's gender and number, just like an adjective. So, if the subject is a woman, you add an I. Elle est allée. I. If it's plural, you add S. Ils sont allés. S. And if it's both, you add IS. Elles sont allées. IS. With avoir, the past participle usually doesn't change, no matter the subject. J'ai mangé. Il a mangé. Elles ont mangé. Same ending every time. Okay, there is one little exception if a direct object comes before the verb, but we will save that for another video. So that's how you build the passé composé. Simple, clear, done. But stories aren't just about what happened. They are also about how things were, the mood, the setting. And that's where the imparfait comes in. Now, let's talk about the imparfait. Remember, it's the painting. It sets the scene, the background. We use it to describe what was happening, or lasted, or repeated, or simply to paint the atmosphere. For example, il faisait beau, les oiseaux chantaient. Here you are describing the scene, the mood. We also use it for past habits. J'avais l'habitude de lire tous les soirs. And for sharing memories or feelings. Quand j'étais petit, je rêvais de voler. If you can answer the question, what was happening? You are probably in the imparfait territory. By now, you are starting to see the difference between imparfait and passé composé, right? If you are still feeling a little bit lost, don't worry. We've got a step-by-step study guide waiting for you in the description. It's perfect for practicing at your own pace, no matter your level. Oh, I forgot to say, it's free. So now that you know when to use the imparfait, let's master how to form it. Forming the imparfait is pretty regular. First, start with the new form of the present tense. For example, let's take these three verbs. Nous parlons, nous finissons, nous vendons. Why nous? Because it's the most regular form in French, unlike je or tu, which can be tricky. Next, remove the on ending to get the base. For example, nous parlons, parle. Nous finissons, finissent. Nous vendons, vendent. And then, add these endings. Je, AIS. Tu, AIS. Il, elle, AIT. Nous, IONS. Vous, IEZ. Il, elle, AIENT. Je parlais, finissais, vendais. Tu parlais, finissais, vendais. Il, elle parlait, finissait, vendait. Nous parlions, finissions, vendions. Vous parliez, finissiez, vendiez. Il, elle parlait, finissait, vendait. Simple, right? There is just one irregular verb in the imparfait. Être. Instead of using the nous form, which is nous sommes, it has its own base. Était. So its conjugation goes like this. J'étais, tu étais, il, elle était, nous étions, vous étiez, ils, elles, étaient. Just like all the other verbs, you add the usual imparfait endings to this base. Your turn. How would you say, when I was little, I played? Correct. Quand j'étais petit, je jouais. You start with nous jouons. You drop the ONS. You get your base joue. You add IS for je. And you get je jouais. Before I reveal the 5 small details even advanced learners miss, the one that make your French sound truly natural, let's see how to mix imparfait and passé composé. This will change everything. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. In any story, the imparfait sets the scene. It describes the mood, the atmosphere, the background, what was going on. Meanwhile, the passé composé tells what actually happened, the events that interrupt or push the story forward. For example, je marchais dans la rue quand soudain un chien a aboyé. You see, the walk is ongoing, so that's imparfait. But the dog barking is a sudden event, so that's passé composé. This combo makes your French sound more natural instantly. You can actually use 2 ongoing actions happening at the same time using the imparfait. Je lisais pendant qu'il cuisinait. Here, both actions happen side by side. No interruption, just parallel scenes. But what if something suddenly happens during that moment? You guessed it, you switch to passé composé. Je lisais pendant qu'il cuisinait quand le téléphone a sonné. This contrast between ongoing and interruptions is the key. Here is the final step that will take your French from correct to truly natural. Stay tuned, this is worth it. Even advanced learners sometimes miss the subtle points, so listen closely. Master these and your French will sound more expressive. 1. Define time or not. If you know exactly when an action started and ended, use passé composé. For example, j'ai étudié 3 ans. It's completed, finished. But if it's an ongoing habit or there is no clear timeline, use imparfait. J'étudiais avant. No clear start or end. Just something repeated. 2. How many times versus how often. Are you counting how many times something happened or describing how often? If you can count the number of times, use passé composé. Ask yourself how many times. For example, j'ai nettoyé 2 fois. But if you are talking about a routine or frequency, use imparfait. For example, je nettoyais 2 fois par semaine. 3. Toujours and jamais. Toujours and jamais look simple, but their meanings changes depending on the tense. Use passé composé for facts that might still be true today. J'ai toujours fait du sport. Use imparfait for past habits. Je faisais toujours du sport. 4. When both tenses work but mean different things. Sometimes you can use both, but the meaning changes. Il a plu, a specific event. Il pleuvait, description or background. Same verb, different effect. 5. Descriptions, feelings, and the verb être. And finally, when you are describing states of being or how things used to be, using verbs like be, seemed, or felt, use imparfait. Il était gentil. Elle semblait fatiguée. Once these 5 contrasts are clear, your French will sound smoother, more expressive, and simply more alive. Let's wrap it up with a quick recap. To summarize, use passé composé for completed actions. Use imparfait for background details, habits, descriptions. Together, they help you tell rich, detailed stories in French. The best way to get comfortable and to improve is to practice. Try telling short stories or dialogues. Use imparfait to set the scenes, and then switch to passé composé to say what actually happened. Over time, you will start feeling the difference naturally. Of course, it takes time, but now you've got all the tools to talk about your past in French with confidence and ease. Want to sound even more natural in French? I've put together 25 must-know French phrases that native speakers use every day. They are perfect to boost your fluency and confidence in real conversations. Click the video on screen and start using them right now. See you there!